Whatever happened to Hoopmixtape? In the early 2010s, Hoopmixtape was a cultural phenomenon. It was a dream for every high school hooper in the country to have their own hoop mixtape. With multiple videos with over 10 million views on YouTube, this once popular channel is now just a feeling of nostalgia for a lot of basketball fans. And with the channel not posting in over 3 years, many basketball lovers have been left asking themselves, what happened to Hoopmixtape? Before we get into the video, some of you younger basketball fans or people that didn't grow up watching YouTube might be asking, what is Hoopmixtape? Hoopmixtape was a high school basketball channel that posted jaw-dropping highlights over dope hip-hop beats featuring some of the top high school players in the nation. Videos like 14-year-old 7th Woods dunking all over his competition has 16 million views. John Wall's very first high school mixtape with over 10 million views. The channel was a staple in basketball culture in its time. It had gotten so big that you even saw NBA players wearing their merch and even shouting Hoopmixtape out. Being Hoopmixtaped was a thing you would hear at parks, high school basketball games, or anywhere with a ball and a hoop. And then seemingly out of nowhere, they disappeared. To tell you the story about Hoopmixtape, I have to tell you a story of another popular high school channel. One that you might be a little bit more familiar with. Their name is Ballislife. But at one point, these two channels were just one company. Ballislife was founded by Matt Rodriguez and Jonathan Durden. Durden and Rodriguez met each other through a popular amateur basketball league called And1. I'm not gonna go into depth on what And1 is. Basically, it was just a league full of professional street hoopers. At the time, And1 had a competitor called the YPA, which stood for the Young Players Association, which Matt Rodriguez was an intern at the time. Which brings us to the year 2002. This is the first year we're going to talk about on our timeline, and while I go through the whole rise and fall, I'm going to break through each year by section so you know what is happening in chronological order. Now at the time, Rodriguez is interning at the YPA and Durden is running a website called Street Ball Online. And because Durden would often need content for his website, he would be in contact with Rodriguez, who would feed him a lot of the highlights. The two would develop a relationship online over the next couple of years, which would lead us all the way up to 2004. In 2004, Rodriguez's league, the YPA, held a huge game in the Bay Area called the Players Ball. It was a street ball all-star game that would feature some of the best street ball talent around. Durden decided to fly all the way to Oakland to cover the game and get some content for his website. This would be the first time the two would actually meet in person. Shortly after meeting each other, both guys realized that they found a liking to each other and built a very strong bond. And also realized another thing, that they could probably be doing this on their own, which led to them to say, hey, let's create our own website. They created their own site, which had a video player, and they started posting basketball content. Now, at the time, they didn't look at the website as nothing more than just a fun hobby, but some people really did enjoy their videos, so they continued to do it. But they needed a name. They had this great website that people were seeing their basketball content, and they needed something that would stick. One day, Durden remembered this old hoodie he used to have back in the 1990s. Back in the 90s, there was this company called Ball Sports, and Ball Sports used to make these shirts that said, "Football is life." Durden naturally went to his head and thought, ball is life. And that was it. ballislife.com was officially born. We are now in 2006 and Durden and Rodriguez have been running Ballislife for about 2 years now. A lot of their initial support would come from the online basketball community, and in these communities they would have these forums where people would post their edits of different basketball content. One of those editors would go by the name of Niles Wagner. Quick side note, because I'm about to talk about Wagner more throughout this video, Wagner is also a very impressive dunker and he has a love for dunking the basketball. It's not important now, but this will be a very huge note later. Durden and Wagner had made contact before and Durden had fell in love with Wagner's editing. So Durden naturally asked Wagner to make some edits for his Ballislife website, which Wagner did agree and threw up some NBA edits. The two would form a working relationship but never had formally met. Until one day when Durden was traveling to Bloomington, Indiana to cover some of the best dunkers in the country at the Adidas May Classic. Wagner so happened to also be in Indiana at the time and decided to tag along with Durden. At the time, Wagner knew very little about high school hoops altogether, but lucky enough for him, there was a point guard out of Chicago at the contest by the name of Derrick Rose. After filming and editing some of the Derrick Rose content, they posted it up on the website, and it immediately was a hit.
We were filming Derrick Rose at the time, and he was a top player, but there was no video of him. And that's the whole reason why Ballislife started. It was, you had all these NBA players vouching for them, like, oh, they were just unbelievable to play with. And for us, we wanted to capture those moments. Started that up, put out that video of Derrick Rose, got like 30,000 views in the first night, shut down our server.
The video wasn't just a hit on their website, it was a hit across all forums in the online basketball community. People were going crazy over the athleticism of Derrick Rose. Due to the success of the Derrick Rose video, Wagner decided to join the team full time, forming a trio of Durden, Rodriguez, and Wagner, traveling all the way across the country to film some of the best high school talent in America. This was the birth of Ballislife. You have to remember, this is the year 2006, and unlike today, someone can't just sit in their room and just make videos on YouTube for a living and get paid. No, most of the time these videos that they were posting, they saw little to no money at all from. And with all of them being in their 20s, they had to find any way possible to make ends meet. So to fund their travels across the country, they would sell their DVDs for $5 at these events. And oftentimes, this was their only form of income. For example, if they travel somewhere and they didn't sell enough DVDs, well, they're stuck there for the night because that was the only money they had for gas. As the year continued, the trio continued to travel around the country, filming some of the best high school talent. But being as young as they were and being dead broke, arguments naturally arose. Oftentimes they would work it out and get back on the road. Not this one day where things got too bad to ever repair. The group was planning to head to Elite 24 in New York, which was a high school basketball showcase. Durden had little to no money, but he used all of his money to get himself a plane ticket to New York. But Wagner, he had no money at all. Durden decided to cover for Wagner also, writing a check that would immediately bounce, and then he was going to pay it back later. And people that didn't work with checks, because I didn't grow up with checks either, it's like how your card declines and I don't know, something like that. So I didn't work with checks. Before I move forward, let me explain to you how the business was ran at the time. They had one bank account for all their Ballislife money, which only one person had access to, Matt Rodriguez. So when they got to New York, Durden told Rodriguez, hey, we need some of that money to cover our travel expenses and, you know, just to live while we're in New York. But Rodriguez, he wasn't really feeling it. That's because Rodriguez at the time was at the mindset that Durden owed him money that he was expecting to get back. The event ended and they all went back home. With Rodriguez in California, he was still waiting for the money back from Durden, and school coming back around, Rodriguez decided to use some of the Ballislife money to pay for his school books and was going to use the money that Durden owed him to repay the Ballislife account. Durden wasn't really a big fan of this move, and he felt some type of way because only one guy had access to the money, and was very worried if this became something bigger, Rodriguez would not be trustworthy with all the money because he's the only person that has access to it. So they split. They had a big argument and they went their separate ways. Rodriguez took ballislife.com, and Wagner and Durden partnered up and took all their content and would create their own website, which they would title Hoopmixtape, forming the birth of Hoopmixtape.com. With Durden and Rodriguez breaking up in 2006 on really bad terms, things only got worse for a while. Durden ended up actually deleting the entire Ballislife website. Rodriguez would use this to light a fire under him and decided that he was going to rebuild Ballislife from the ground up. Eventually, he would partner up with his now business partner, and they would become partners with Ballislife. Rodriguez in California was looking for his next person to film, and he caught his eye on a kid out of Compton by the name of DeMar DeRozan. He would begin hanging around at DeMar DeRozan practices, hit open gyms, and just filming him. At first, they didn't really think much of it until he started posting them online. This would lead to the very first post on the Ballislife YouTube channel in 2007. As you can see on the video, it says DVD coming soon. All this content that he was posting was still just promotion for his DVDs. Ballislife would post one more video this year onto YouTube, which would be the first official high school mixtape on the channel. Ballislife had made the transition over to YouTube. Hoopmixtape had not yet created their channel. a big thing did happen this year. After creating Hoopmixtape last year, Durden decided that he was done with the high school basketball world. He was tired of the very long nights, terrible hotels, and having little to no money for all of his hard work. And he also wanted to focus on his own venture. He had this clothing brand called Draft Picks, and it interested him more than Hoopmixtape at the time. So he left Hoopmixtape and gave everything to Wagner. And that's basically how 2007 ended. Ballislife started uploading to YouTube, and Wagner had lost his business partner. In 2007, we saw Ballislife start using a new platform called YouTube. In 2008, Hoopmixtape would join the trend and they would start uploading to YouTube as well. Their first video was a video of Brandon Jennings scoring 42 points in a high school basketball game. Remember earlier when I said Wagner took all his content from Ballislife? This was basically him emptying his hard drive onto YouTube. In March of 2008, Hoopmixtape posted one of my favorite videos from this year, which was an and one dunker called Air Up There. If you're not familiar with Air Up There is, he famously pulled off a 720 dunk mid-game, meaning he did 2 full spins in the air before dunking. I mean, it's absurd that he actually did that. In a game too. He was absolutely ridiculous, and he carried the Hoopmixtape channel this year, and he had 3 mixtapes which all have more than 2 million views now. As Hoopmixtape was posting and one content, Ballislife decided to drop their first official senior year mixtape on DeMar DeRozan. This was a 2-part mixtape, which halfway you would see a beat switch, and this was the first official mixtape that Ballislife has ever did, which is kind of a big deal. Because some players might get a mixtape for a couple of games, or you might get a mixtape for a AAU season. To get an official mixtape, that usually meant all your best highlights from an entire season. For both Ballislife and Hoopmixtape, 2008 could be considered their rookie season onto YouTube and would set the tone for what would be coming next. 2009 was a pivotal year for Hoopmixtape. Going into their second year onto YouTube, they needed something to gain some momentum and get some traction on their page. And that would come in April when Hoopmixtape would drop a video that would change the landscape of high school basketball forever.
Number one,
The John Wall mixtape is regarded as the greatest high school mixtape of all time and still is one of the most viewed mixtapes ever. Wall was the top player in the country at the time, but most of the people that didn't live near him had never seen him play. The John Wall video has over 10 million views at the time of recording and still one of the most memorable Hoop mixtapes ever. This put Hoopmixtape on the map and left basketball fans wanting more and more, which they delivered 13 days later with a mixtape over Marcus Jordan. Marcus Jordan is the son of famous Michael Jordan, and everyone was so concerned on how good Marcus would actually be. This video gained so much traction that it's actually the second most viewed video on Hoopmixtape to this day. In a span of 14 days, Hoopmixtape dropped 2 of the biggest videos ever and forever changed the landscape of high school basketball. Now, Ballislife did post in 2009, and they also made a mixtape over Marcus Jordan and one of Brandon Jennings. But everyone was still buzzing and talking about Hoopmixtape's video over John Wall. So how could they follow it up in 2010? Before I get into the mixtapes of 2010, I need you to pay close attention to the story. As 2009 was a big monumental year for Hoopmixtape, Ballislife was working on something even before that. As early as 2008, if you would look at some of the videos that Ballislife posted, you would see a Slam logo on the corner of some of their videos. That's because the two had a partnership together to gather high school basketball content. So why is this important? We don't really see anything significant happen out of this, but it's an early indication of where Ballislife's mind was at. They were thinking business and partnerships from 2008. Now let's go on to the mixtapes. First, Ballislife uploaded their official mixtape of James Harden, and this was before Harden had his famous beard. A week later, Hoopmixtape would drop a video over top point guard Kyrie Irving. And if you know anything about the NBA, or if you watched Kyrie Irving highlights before, this mixtape was filthy. He was breaking everybody's ankles in high school. September 8th, Hoopmixtape uploads a video over Doc Rivers' son, Austin Rivers. Austin Rivers is my all-time favorite high school player. In fact, he's the guy who really got me into high school basketball altogether. He also is a great way of indicating where high school basketball and overall basketball culture was at this point. If you watch this Austin Rivers video, you're gonna notice 2 things that he wore. One was this two-tone arm sleeve, which John Wall made famous when he was at Kentucky. And the second were the Nike Elite socks. And if you know about them Elite socks. If you were like me, you had a whole drawer full of just Elite socks in every color. But this is where basketball culture was at, and that was mainly thanks to John Wall, who we talked about last year being at Kentucky. Now let's go on to 2011. 2011 was a monumental year for both companies. Before we get into the mixtapes, there are a couple things I have to address about this year. Ballislife launched two big things this year. First was their apparel brand. Hoopmixtape also had apparel, but they were mainly just t-shirts and hoodies. Ballislife took it to the next level, which really helped Ballislife push themselves outside of just a YouTube brand to more of a full-out company. The second was the launch of the Ballislife All-American game, which features some of the top high school players across the country all playing on a Ballislife. This did wonders for their brand as everyone wanted to see the Ballislife game, and it only helped grow Ballislife more. If you know anything about 2011, you know anything about the NBA around this time, this is when the NBA was going through their lockout. NBA players and owners couldn't agree on how to structure their salary cap, so they had a lockout and players were not allowed to go into NBA facilities until the lockout was over, which means that players needed somewhere to play basketball. They went where they could find it, which were pro-ams and pickup games all across the country. And since these games weren't NBA games, there were no media rules or violations or copyrights that people had to go through to film. That means anyone could pick up a camera and post it online. And that's exactly what Hoopmixtape and Ballislife did.
The lockout happened, we became like the go-to destination for NBA lockout content. And if guys like LeBron, Steph, Russell Westbrook, Kevin Durant, everybody was playing in all these games around the country, seemingly almost every other day. And we were going and flying all over the place and covering those games.
Hoopmixtape and Ballislife capitalized on the fact that they now had access to NBA highlights. This just broadened the audience that they were touching. Having the biggest names in basketball on your channel were huge, and this was also during the time when LeBron James had just went to Miami. There were some high school ones that we have to cover, and we're going to talk about them first. Hoopmixtape started off the year with an iconic mixtape of a player you're going to hear again in 2012, but the 2011 one is also special.
Carr, and it's my Hoopmixtape.
This was the first time a killer car was posted on Hoopmixtape. And although the one next year is better, this video is still insane. He was a 5'6" guard, absolutely destroying his competition, crossing over everybody, and he even ended the mixtape with a poster dunk. Now we have to take a moment to stop and talk about Aquille Carr. The legend of Aquille Carr is in his nickname, the Crime Stopper. The legend is, in his hometown of Baltimore, Maryland, whenever Aquille Carr played, the crime rate of the city would go down because everyone that would be out committing crime at night would all be watching Aquille Carr play. As we continue on, we go back to a guy that I talked about last year who was my personal favorite player, and here comes his best mixtape, the mixtape that really opened my eyes to how good Austin Rivers was. The Austin Rivers senior year mixtapes is hands down in my top 3 favorite mixtapes ever. It's absolutely ridiculous. Like, even the intro when he's like, I'm gonna go off right now. Like, that was crazy. It always got me so anticipated whenever I saw that, to just see what he's about to do, and he did not disappoint. He killed his opponents. Step backs, crossovers, dunks, threes, everything. This tape was disgusting. This is by far the best mixtape that is of him on YouTube currently. This mixtape dropped on April 28th, and Ballislife actually dropped their Austin Rivers senior mixtape the same exact day. This is something we're going to see moving forward, as there's only so many top players. You usually see Ballislife and Hoopmixtape cover the same guys. But the important thing to notice is that Ballislife will usually cover them first and post it a week or two before Hoopmixtape. But usually Hoop Mixtape will post it after and they will destroy the Ball is Life one. Like the Ball is Life one will come out and it'll be cool, but the Hoop Mixtape one is like, yeah, Hoop Mixtape just did a way better job. And that's what happened on this Austin Rivers mixtape. There's a lot of the same clips in both videos, but the Hoop Mixtape one is just so much better that you don't even want to go watch the Ball is Life one after you're done with it. Continuing on to June, Hoop Mixtape dropped a video of one of the best dunkers in high school. The Shaquille Johnson mixtape is absolutely crazy and he's literally dunking on everybody in this video, including this filthy dunk that he did at the end. One thing that you have to know about high school mixtapes is that the first play matters, but that last play means a lot. Usually you'll see the mixtape drop the music and you just see a crazy poster dunk or a crazy three-pointer. And this one did not disappoint. Literally, look at the way he waited for him. He stepped, he looked at him and said, and dunked on, like, bro, if someone waited for me to jump just to embarrass me, we're fighting. We're fighting. I don't even fight, but we're fighting. There's no way you're coming down the court after doing that. It's ridiculous. Now, that was all the big high school mixtapes of that year. So we're going to shift our focus over to the NBA now and their lockout content. This year is already really long and you already know these NBA players. So we're going to go through the NBA mixtapes in rapid fire. We have the Brandon Jennings versus Josh Shelby at Melo League, which I love the intro of this video because look at the way that Brandon Jennings is looking at Shelby. Like, yeah, they were finna go down. Then we have Kobe Bryant dropping 45 points at the Drew League, including a game winner. LeBron and KD going head to head, and KD had 59. And I will say this, as a LeBron fan, I love LeBron, but shoot, KD looked disgusting in that mixtape. Like, I don't know what happened to that guy. That guy looked crazy. Then we had Justin Bieber showing out with NBA pros, and LeBron James going crazy at the CP3 All-Star game. And to end it out, we had LeBron James, Brandon Jennings, and Kevin Durant all getting their official lockout mixtape. Ballislife built their brand out this year. They started the All-American game. They got the hero. They really got themselves in front of more eyes outside of just high school mixtapes. While Hoop Mixtape absolutely destroyed Ballislife on YouTube this year, they posted 3 fire high school mixtapes and went crazy during the lockout. 2 companies that do the same thing headed in 2 different directions, foreshadowing where both these companies are today. Now on to 2012. 2011 really gave Hoop Mixtape and Ballislife a bigger audience, and with a bigger audience also comes way more competition. In addition, 2012 was also the first year that both companies would make an Instagram account and start promoting on social media. And as we know now, Instagram is a big way to grow a brand, and Ballislife today has over 8 million followers on Instagram, and Hoop Mixtape has over 1 million. Now let's get into the mixtapes. Hoop Mixtape started the year off with the best of 2011, which was a compilation of high school mixtapes and NBA lockout mixtapes all into one big mixtape video. In March, we saw Ballislife drop a video of a 15-year-old Marcus Lovett. At 15, Marcus Lovett was a beast. Like, he was crossing everybody and knocking down crazy threes with crazy passes. I personally think they could have done a little bit better on this Marcus Lovett video because Marcus Lovett is very entertaining. As much as I want to criticize Ballislife's editing, they made up for it with this next mixtape. The Gabe York official mixtape was something nasty, bro. They had this play where he would come from the baseline and they would just lob it up, and you're about to see right here, and he just... Oh my gosh, like, bro, I always wondered like how it would be to be one of those kids that get dunked on in a hoop mixtape. You go to school next day and everyone's like, yo. Gabe just like embarrassed you in front of everybody. Then like your girl break up with you and everything. I don't know, I feel bad for the kid, but Gabe York obviously didn't. I mean, Ballislife didn't either because they made it the thumbnail. As we continue to move on, next month, Ballislife dropped a video over Jabari Parker. Jabari Parker was a big name for me because I'm from Illinois and Jabari Parker's from Chicago. When Jabari Parker was popping, everybody in the state knew about it. Like, you couldn't go into a barbershop without them talking about Jabari Parker. Now, I've been talking about Ballislife a lot, and you might be thinking, well, Ballislife had a great year. Best believe, regardless of how good of a year Ballislife had, Hoop Mixtape still had the better video. In fact, Hoop Mixtape dropped the best video 2012, my personal all-time favorite mixtape. Honestly, words can't explain how good this mixtape really is, so you just gotta see it.
It's Aquille, Carr, and it's my Hoop Mixtape.
I know we covered Aquille Carr in 2011, but this Aquille Carr 2012 mixtape is just 10 times better. I mean, the way it starts off, him around his family, I'm Aquille Carr and you're watching my Hoopmixtape, like what? A 10 out of 10 perfect mixtape. There's literally not a flaw with the Aquille Carr 2012 mixtape. And that's pretty much how the year ended. ballislife had their best year yet and actually ended with a really good video, which was their Ankle Breaker Volume 1, which just featured a bunch of crazy ankle breakers. But Hoopmixtape still stole the shine and had the Aquille Carr mixtape, which you really just can't compete with that. 2013 is a year where Mark Rodriguez, the CEO of ballislife, starts to think of ballislife as more of a company than a hobby. We've already seen him kind of do some business moves to All-American Game, partnering up with Slam. This is when he started to realize like this could be his full-time job forever. In addition to that, he created 4 expansion channels: ballislife East, ballislife West, ballislife Midwest, and ballislife South. This was huge for him because he was able to localize his media and really see what talent was coming from all areas of the country and who they should keep their eye on for a future mixtape on the main channel. And this is something that Hoopmixtape never really did. They did have their expansion channels, Hoopmixtape Blog, Hoopmixtape 2.0, but they never had their centralized channels in different regions. Hoopmixtape did do 2 very important things this year that seemed minor at the time. First off, they partnered up with Al Def Digital, which allowed them to get access to way more beats than ever before. The second was that Niels Wagner, the owner of Hoopmixtape, made a friend. His name was Jordan Kilgannon. Remember when I told you earlier that Wagner was a huge dunker and that he did a lot of crazy dunks? Yeah, that's going to become important more later, but a little bit now, because Jordan Kilgannon was a up and coming dunker at the time who was just posting dunks online, and he caught the eye of Wagner. Wagner took an interest to him and flew him out to LA, and they spent 2 summers together dunking and recording content and posting it onto Hoopmixtape. This will be very important in the following years, and you'll see more and more Jordan posted on the page. But for now, let's get into the mixtapes, because 2013 might be the best year that Hoopmixtape has ever had. We saw last year that ballislife posted a video of Marcus Lovett, who's a 15-year-old, and I said it was good, but just felt like it could be better. Well, it did get better, a lot better, and it was by Hoopmixtape. The Marcus Lovett mixtape is the 5th highest viewed video on the Hoopmixtape channel with over 8 million views to this day. And it's one of the best mixtapes you will ever watch, including just some crazy passes like this one right here. Just so you know that I'm not lying, look at the numbers. ballislife posted a Marcus Lovett video 2 days before this Marcus Lovett video was posted by Hoopmixtape, and it only has 1.3 million views compared to Hoopmixtape's 8 million. And Hoopmixtape was just getting started this year. Like I said, they peaked. They posted one of their highest viewed videos also right after of Canadian star Andrew Wiggins. Now, most of you guys are familiar with Andrew Wiggins. I don't have to say much. He had crazy bounce and he was very skilled. Hoopmixtape was at the point where their quality of video was just second to none. But Wagner was not satisfied. He had posted 2 of his biggest videos in the beginning of the year, but he wanted more. He wanted to post a video about a guy no one had heard of. He didn't want to do the Marcus Lovetts, Aquille Carr, or the Andrew Wiggins, or the Austin Rivers. No, he needed someone that he could introduce to the country, and everyone would be like, oh yeah, I remember that guy because Hoopmixtape showed me him first. And in April, he did just that, posting the most viewed high school mixtape ever, and if not the greatest, the second greatest mixtape of all time. I could sit here and tell you how big of a mixtape the 7th Woods mixtape really was, or I could let 7th Woods tell you. I had no idea how big it was gonna get. It makes me sound old, but I wasn't thinking about going viral back then. That wasn't a thing. I just know that the next game was sold out with fire marshals and everything. I never had a game that wasn't sold out after that. Overnight, Hoopmixtape turned an unknown 17-year-old, 7th Woods, into an internet superstar. And we had seen a lot of super athletic players before this. We've had John Wall, we had Shaquille Johnson, but there was something different about 7th Woods. Something that just made you want to watch that mixtape over and over and over and over again. Trust me, the 17 million views that video has, probably 1,000 of those are from me. I showed it to everyone that I know, including one of my friends who actually wrote 7th Woods a DM after watching the mixtape for inspiring him to play basketball. And I'm not talking about like a 1 to 2 sentence DM or like, hey, I really appreciate your video, like you're great. No, I'm talking a paragraph about how good 7th Woods was and how much he inspired him to hoop. That was the 7th Woods mixtape. It was that good. It's on the Mount Rushmore of mixtapes, and if you talk to anyone, 7th Woods will get bought up if you start talking about Hoopmixtape. So how do you follow up a 7th Woods mixtape? Well, you really don't. 3 days later, ballislife dropped their senior year mixtape of Aaron Gordon, and it was good, and you could definitely see a significant editing increase from their past videos. But at this point, ballislife wasn't really focused on mixtapes, and they were running more as a media company than just an online highlight film. With ballislife Midwest actually having the 2nd most viewed high school mixtape of all time. And it would be of a 7th grader, no less, named Chase Adams. At 4'11", Chase Adams was moving like a varsity in high school in only 7th grade. And he was also from Chicago, so I heard about him a lot too. The year would end with one more video of 7th Woods. But it wasn't a mixtape this time, it was a single dunk. And this dunk was actually #1 on ESPN SportsCenter top 10 plays. This was the first #1 play that Hoopmixtape had ever had. It kind of just showed the impact that Hoopmixtape had, that 7th Woods was now 15 and just in 8 months he had become an internet sensation and was getting talked about on national television. That's pretty much how the year ended. Hoopmixtape put on a masterclass when it came to mixtapes. Not only did they post the most watched high school mixtape of all time, they posted their 5th and 6th most watched mixtapes on their channel with Marcus Lovett and Andrew Wiggins. Hoopmixtape absolutely peaked this year, and this is at the time when we look at Hoopmixtape and say, this is going to be the best YouTube channel for decades to come as far as basketball content. Now we're in 2014, and last year, Hoopmixtape had their peak. And naturally, when you peak at something, you begin to decline, much like I did right after high school. And that's what begins to happen in 2014. No real business moves happened from either company this year, so we're going to go straight into the mixtapes. Hoopmixtape started the year off strong with one of my favorite players, Dennis Smith Jr. He was an explosive guard who just dunked on everybody. In March, ballislife dropped an official sophomore year mixtape of 7-foot Don Maker. Most of you guys are familiar with Victor Wembanyama. Well, Don Maker was Wembanyama before Wembanyama was Wembanyama. In June, ballislife posted another video of one of my favorite high school players, being Stanley Johnson. Now, Johnson had an interesting rise in high school, as when he first was a freshman, he didn't get a lot of playing time, to being one of the best players in the country his senior year. And ballislife was there to document all of it in a 30-minute long documentary titled Work. The 30-minute documentary covered Stanley Johnson's insane work ethic and dedication to his game. More importantly, it showed that ballislife was capable of doing high-level media production. For Hoopmixtape, they were still focused on mixtapes, dropping another video of one of my favorite players, Malik Monk. Malik Monk was a 6'3" guard with insane bounce and a deadly three-point shot. Regardless of all that, 2014 was the decline of Hoopmixtape, and this was the rise of ballislife. This was the first year where I can confidently say that they posted better mixtapes than Hoopmixtape did. One thing that ballislife could never do that Hoopmixtape will always do better, and that is making a mixtape over a dunker. And later in August, Hoopmixtape dropped a video of one of the best dunkers in high school, Kofie Parker. And if you're not familiar with Kofie Parker, he has ludicrous bounce. Like, his bounce is something out of this planet. It's ridiculous. Wagner's love for dunking does not stop there. Remember his friend Jordan Kilgannon? Yeah, the guy Wagner flew in from LA to shoot content with? Well, they had their first viral video this year when he dressed up as Spider-Man in a video titled "Spider-Man is the best dunker in the world." And that's how Hoopmixtape ended their year, with a video of Jordan Kilgannon. ballislife continued on their high horse and dropped banger videos like Dennis Smith Jr.'s official mixtape, Jaylen Brown's official mixtape, and the 3rd volume of the Ankle Breakers. ballislife at this point was the better channel than Hoopmixtape. In 2015, something extremely important happens. The most important thing in the entire video. And it answers the question you came here for: what happened to Hoopmixtape and where it's at? But it happens at the end of the year, so you gotta sit through more mixtapes with me. If last year was any indication that Balls Life was becoming the better channel, well, 2015 was the final nail in the coffin, as Balls Life put out their best performance yet when it came out to mixtapes. I have said throughout this video that Balls Life would post a video of a player a week or 2 weeks before, or even a month before Hoopmixtape, and then Hoopmixtape would make the better video. Well, it didn't happen like that this time. Actually, it was the other way around. Hoopmixtape uploaded a video of Dennis Smith Jr. at the beginning of March that had less than 1 million views. And then Balls Life uploaded their Dennis Smith Jr. mixtape in March 24th, which has 1.3 million views. And it was clear then that there was a shift in the best mixtape maker on YouTube. Also in March, Balls Life would post a video of 16-year-old Harry Giles, which at the time looked like an NBA superstar. They also would cover another #1 player in the country, Josh Jackson, who also looked like another NBA superstar. It seemed like the move that they made a couple years ago to become more regional was finally paying off, as they were covering all the players that would eventually make it to the NBA. Guys like DeJounte Murray, who had this ridiculous layup, or Brandon Ingram, who was labeled the baby KD, and Trayvon Duval, who never had a long NBA career but was one of the best dunkers we saw in high school. And Hoopmixtape, on the other hand, for the first time looked like they were the channel that was actually playing catch up, dropping a Trae Jefferson video a year later than the Balls Life one, which was good because Trae Jefferson was interesting, but it just wasn't special. And they would end the year with a De'Aaron Fox video, which was a very electrifying player to watch. There were 2 very important things that were posted by Wagner this year. One of them would be on the Hoopmixtape channel, and the other one would be on the NBA channel of all places. The Hoopmixtape video would be once again of his friend Jordan Kilgannon, and doing one of the best dunks we've ever seen. It was a 360 dunk called the Lost and Found, which essentially Jordan is doing a 360 and he throws the ball behind his back and then he catches it and dunks it. I can't really describe it. Like you just have to see it. Like I'm gonna play it one more time. I'm gonna shut up. I'm gonna play it one more time for you. Absolutely ridiculous, just ridiculous. But there was another video that was posted by Wagner, and this time this was on the NBA channel. And you might be wondering, why was Wagner's video posted on the NBA? It does high school highlights. This one was a video over Jason Williams and his career highlights on the Sacramento Kings. Why is he doing NBA videos for the NBA? That's because Niles Wagner had been officially hired by the NBA to be a full-time editor, which was his dream job when he began all of this. He, in his eyes, had made it, which would answer why we saw less and less posts on the Hoopmixtape channel this year. In 2015, Hoopmixtape posted a total of 11 videos and only 5 of them happened to be mixtapes, as Wagner's new focus now was on the NBA and no longer on Hoopmixtape. At 2015 saw Hoopmixtape only post 5 mixtapes in total, with Wagner focusing more on his NBA job now. That number would plummet down to 0 in 2016. In fact, Hoopmixtape only posted 2 total videos the entire year, and they both were of his friend Jordan Kilgannon. For Balls Life, 2016 was an extremely pivotal year, and I would call this year the death of the mixtape era. And it's mainly for one reason: the Ball brothers. Most of you guys are probably familiar with the Ball family. You have Lonzo Ball, LiAngelo Ball, LaMelo Ball, and they all played for Chino Hills back in 2016. Not only were they 3 extremely gifted players, their team didn't lose a single game the entire year. And they weren't just playing scrubs, no, they were beating some of the top teams in the country. It was more than just blowing these teams out. It was also about the way the Ball brothers played. If you've never watched the Chino Hills basketball games back in 2016, let me just give you a short summary. They didn't really play defense. They trapped, would force their opposing team into turnovers, and then would chuck up as many threes as quick as possible, and then trap again and chuck up more 3-pointers. And it worked. Their playstyle was so fascinating, so different, that everyone wanted to watch it and they wanted to see more and more of it. And a mixtape just wouldn't do it justice. So Balls Life had a compromise and said, instead of giving out mixtapes, how about we just do full game highlights of the Ball brothers? And with Hoopmixtape being no more, Balls Life really had no incentive to do mixtapes anymore. They focused mainly on full highlights. But they still did have some great mixtapes, and we still have to cover them for 2016. The Balls Life started the year off with a Ball Brothers mixtape, which was basically them just dominating their competition. And then in March, they would drop one of my favorite videos of theirs, which was the 9th grader Cautious Stanley mixtape. And Stanley looked like a beast in 9th grade. I mean, he dunked everything. It looked so effortless. And to this day, if you tell me the name Cautious Stanley, I still think of that last dunk he has. I mean, between the legs on a fast break and then reverse, it's absolutely crazy for a freshman. Lonzo Ball also got his senior year mixtape this year, and then they ended the year off with a mixtape on Michael Porter Jr. 2016 was also the year that we would start to see YouTube creators reacting to a lot of these high school mixtapes, famously OSN, who was one of the biggest creators to do it at that time. His over-the-top reactions would garner millions of views on his own channel and then also help push ballislife to get more views. And what it did for ballislife was it gave them a newer, younger audience that they weren't tapped into. And that was really 2016. There weren't a lot of big mixtapes. Hoopmixtape literally didn't drop a single mixtape the entire year. The Ball Brothers took over and mixtape era was officially dead. Now, I called 2016 the death of the mixtapes, but 2017 honestly is truly the official death of mixtapes forever. As ballislife posted over 300 times this year, and only 8, yes, 8 of them were official mixtapes. Because ballislife's focus was on a couple things. First, they saw the success of creators like OSN and they wanted to get more engaged into the creator space, which is something we'd see today where they have creators who play for them and have create content on the ballislife channel. And their other focus were LaMelo Ball and Zion Williamson. They were the 2 biggest names in high school on different sides of the country. It didn't matter for ballislife as they had their regional channels, so they didn't miss a single game. I mean, if you literally look at Ballislife's channel during 2017, you would literally just see LaMelo Ball Zion, LaMelo Ball Zion, LaMelo Ball Zion. That's all their channel was. Most of them were not mixtapes. They even met in an AAU game, which is one of the biggest high school games ever. And for Hoopmixtape, well, their focus was still on dunking. They only posted 2 videos this year. One was the top 50 dunks of Derrick Jones, and the other was Wagner's friend again, his top 100 dunks. With Wagner now working at the NBA, he really just used Hoopmixtapes to post some of his passion projects, which were, of course, dunking videos of him and his friend Jordan. I did say there were 8 mixtapes this year, so we have to cover some of the best ones. ballislife started the year off with their 4th edition of the Ankle Breaker mixtapes. Like every time. Another crazy dunker was posted later on ballislife channel of Jalen Hands, who was getting comparisons to Russell Westbrook, mainly just because he was a guard and that was also going to UCLA. But he had crazy bounce. To end March off, ballislife gave the youngest brother of the Ball brothers, LaMelo Ball, his own official mixtape, which was a 5-minute long mixtape that included 2 mixtapes in it. And it also included his infamous point at the half court line and shoot, like, you know, the shot where he literally pointed at the half court line and made it. And that was pretty much it. That was 2017. Only 8 mixtapes really were posted, and Zion Williamson and LaMelo Ball were high school basketball and they dominated the culture. Now for 2018 and 2019, I'm going to group them together and I'm not going to go one by the best mixtapes so we can get through with the end of this video. I'm just going to talk about high school basketball as a whole and where it stood at during these 2 years. Hoopmixtape did not post a single video during this time, and it seemed like Wagner now was 100% focused on his job with the NBA. And way more players now were getting covered because there were more channels covering these players. Channels like Overtime, Home Team Hoops, Courtside Films, and much more. The main players covered these 2 years were LaMelo Ball, Zion Williamson, Mac McClung, Jalen Green, Julian Newman, Michael Porter Jr., and the Jelly Fam. The landscape of high school hoops was changing with so many players now getting mixtapes that it almost became watered down. And a new term of basketball was getting thrown around called highlight culture.
I played in high school. You only got a mixtape if you were like a top tier guy. Back then, like you had to put in work, like consistent work, build a name for yourself to get a mixtape. And it was like an honor to have a ballislife mixtape. It was an honor to have a Hoopmixtape. We didn't play to have one though. I didn't go into a game doing something to be on Hoopmixtape. I went into the game to win and just be myself. And Hoopmixtape and them were there following me. I didn't ask Hoopmixtape to come follow me. I didn't pay Hoopmixtape $1. I didn't pay ballislife $1. They just followed me because I was that guy. They followed Brad Beal because he was that guy. They followed this guy because he was that guy. That's how it was.
And that was basically 2018, 2019. The influx of high school mixtapes went all the way up and everyone now had highlights literally you could have probably been a 6-man and you had a mixtape on YouTube at this point. 2020 is the last year I'm going to cover, and it's the last time we saw Hoop Mixtape. Unless you lived under a rock, and if you don't know what I'm about to talk about in 2020, then you probably should go get checked out. Probably should stop watching this video and like go watch some news or something, because like you really are out of touch, because that was the infamous COVID pandemic, which forced everyone into a lockdown, which meant there was no NBA for Wagner to edit, as all sports were canceled. I don't know this 100% because I don't know Wagner. I didn't talk to him. I did try DMing him for his video, but he didn't respond to me. My guess is that, well, Wagner was at home and he was bored and had a bunch of unfinished mixtapes and said, hey, how about I finish some of them and upload them to my channel, Hoopmixtape? And that's what he did, because after his 2-year hiatus, Hoopmixtape uploaded 4 videos this year. And all these videos were uploaded during the height of the COVID pandemic. A video of LeBron James and Kevin Durant going at it during the NBA lockout. A video of Kobe Bryant at the Drew League during the lockout. The last high school mixtape of Lorenzo Brown. And the very last post on Hoopmixtape ever, a 2012 highlights of Team USA. That was the last time we ever saw Hoopmixtape. Okay, while I was editing this, I did realize Hoopmixtape posted a couple of shorts this year. Most of them centered around dunking, but we have seen them in 2023 with a couple of shorts, probably because they saw that shorts are paying out now and they were trying to get on the trend. But other than that, we haven't seen them since then. Also, since you guys have watched this far in the video, just leave a like and subscribe, and now I'll get back to the video. A fun hobby that 3 friends shared to make video clips of high school hoops became a cultural phenomenon, turning high school kids into global superstars overnight. Aquille Carr was even offered a professional contract after his video went viral on Hoopmixtape. Although there is still Ballislife and still plenty, and I mean plenty, of high school highlight channels that make mixtapes, no one can quite fill the void that Hoopmixtape left. A channel that most basketball fans grew up with, a channel that if you say Hoopmixtape to a basketball fan, they're gonna tell you, hey, yeah, my favorite video is Aquille Carr. I love the John Wall one, or I like Andrew Wiggins, or 7th Woods. They will know a video off the top of their head. And it'll probably bring a big smile on their face, because it's a memory that we never want to forget. Just watching Hoopmixtapes with our friends, like, it was the best feeling. And I'm gonna say this, from someone who grew up with Hoopmixtapes, from someone that was in high school during your height, from someone that really has spent the time to watch all your mixtapes, Niles Wagner, from all basketball fans and lovers of high school hoops, thank you for your work on Hoopmixtape. Thank you for making our childhood better. Thank you for making class better, sitting at our computer watching 5 to 10 Hoopmixtapes before the class bell rang. Thank you. We appreciate you and your videos, and we hope that you're doing a great job with the NBA. And one day, maybe when you're bored, maybe go pick up some of that Zion Williamson footage and give us a proper Zion Williamson Hoopmixtape, because it's something that we all want to this day. Also, I want to give a quick shout out to YouTuber Kofie, who made a phenomenal video over the high school mixtapes, and honestly was a lot of the inspiration that I came from this video. So I want you to make sure you check his video out over this. He goes over way more mixtapes than I did, and I'm gonna put a link of the video in the bio because it's absolutely phenomenal. But Hoopmixtape, we miss you, we love you, bye forever.